Well, let's get started. Tonight's webinar, this third one, is about how to build the business. And specifically, it's about how to share this CD so that people listen to it, because this is the key to our business right there. All right. Now, to explain this, I want to explain just first of all a little bit of what we call the cash flow quadrant. This is by Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about financial health in a way that many people probably haven't heard of before. His second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, I think is probably the best book to take somebody who hasn't been an entrepreneur and introduce them to the idea or concept of becoming an entrepreneur, of creating a residual income, a pipeline, instead of something where you're trading time for money. And to help explain that, we have here the cash flow quadrant. It says there's 4 ways to make money. E, you're an employee trading time for money. S stands for a self-employed person. B is for a business owner, and I is for an investment. Now, we're not going to talk much about the employees here, although it's impossible to become an employee with the company if you move to San Diego. We're not going to talk about that. Most of us have been employees before we understand what it means to be an employee. We understand that as an employee, you're not based on results. Okay, so we're not. That's not our focus here. We're also not going to talk about investment, although you can become an owner of the company and have stocks, and you can use your money that you make and buy real estate. We're not going to talk about that. Obviously, not all investments make money, and all stocks go up and down regardless of the company. Fortunately, if you get in on it when it's a small company, it can go up a lot. And one of the best ways to participate in that part of it is to build a business. So we're not going to talk about becoming an investor, other than saying that through building a business, you can get stock options, which is kind of like becoming an investor without having to put money out initially. You wait and see what the stock prices does, and then if it would make you money, then you can put money in, right? So that's great there too. But what we're going to talk about is the difference between an S and a B. Both of them are businesses. S is a self-employed person. Now, the definition of a self-employed person is you are paid on results, but only when you're there. In other words, if you're a plumber and you charge by the hour, right? When you make money as a business, the more you work, obviously, the more you can get paid. But if you're not plumbing, you're not getting paid. If you're in any business where it's dependent on you being there, you're in an S quadrant business. If you're in a kind of business where you can have a business that works even when you're not there, think of it like owning a franchise that can work when you're not at the store, then that's a B quadrant business. And if you want to look at the difference between an S and a B, because that's our options here, folks. In an S quadrant business, it's dependent on you. If you get a referral, you even go out and work with that referral, and you spend time with them. So it's still dependent on your time. You're the one pushing the business. You're the one sharing the message. Now, sometimes this can be a sales business. Most sales businesses are in this category. A B business can actually work with fewer people initially, but some of those people then work with others, who then work with others, who then work with others. And there's lots of people along the way that just use the products, but there's some that do the business. That's a B quadrant business. A couple of questions to ask yourself. Which one changes more lives? Which one makes more money? Which one has more time freedom? And if you were Dr. Wallach trying to change the world, which one did you choose? Which one did he choose? He chose the B quadrant business. Now, here's a big question. This is a big question. Which one do you want? Because that's what this webinar is about. Which one do you want? You can't build it like an S and hope it will be a B. You have to build a B. And that's what we're trying to do with this webinar. So how do we build a B? Well, it's called a principle of duplication. I want you to understand that, and when we talk about duplication, there are examples of duplication. It's not just about how hard you work. It's about people who talk to people who talk to people, and how many of those people will talk to people who talk to people, right? It's that kind of a business. And so when we look at that, if you talk to one person who talks to one person who talks to one person over 6 generations, that's 6 people. Not bad, because you only talk to one, but you double your efforts, you can double your group. You talk to 2, they each talk to 1, now you're at 12. What if you could double your duplication? Would that double your results? No, much, much more. 2 talk to 2 talk to 2 over the same 6 generations, over 100. And if you did it by 3s, it's over 1,000. If you did it by 4s, it's over 5,400. Let me say this. Small changes in your duplication can have a huge impact on your results. Small changes can have huge impacts on your results. What I mean by that is, let's say you doubled your duplication from a 2 to a 4. You doubled your duplication. Look in just 6 generations what that would do. That is over 54 times the volume. Would you like that? Would you like to be making 54 times as much money now, as much money in the future as you are now? You can do that if we can increase your duplication. And that is what it's all about. We need to make sure we increase duplication. And how do we do that? The more others say, I can do that too, the greater your duplication. We want to build a business in a way that other people can say do it too. Now, there's a principle here in word of mouth. And the principle is you don't have to become a great chef to introduce food to your friends. Okay? You don't have to be a chef to introduce great food to your friends. If you've ever watched a movie and told a friend about it, read a book and told a friend about it, ate at a good restaurant and told a friend about it, it's the same skills that we're going to use in our business. And that's the principle of word of mouth. And that's something that people say, hey, I can do that. We simply, if you're trying to introduce a good restaurant to your friends, instead of becoming the chef, you simply bring them to the restaurant. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring them. In Youngevity, our job is to bring people to our proven system. That proven system is going to be the restaurant. That's what it's all about. And for you to bring people to the restaurant, the key skill for you to master is called effective inviting. And we're going to spend some time about that here in just a minute. So I want to go over just a little bit before we do that about getting started. And we have some getting started slides that are going to walk you through for some of the what I call the ABCs right here. The ABCs to get ready. There's basically 3 things that if you're going to do this business that I think you should do to get ready so that you can be as effective as possible with your time, right? Because yeah, you can invest some money in the business, but the real biggest investment isn't the money, it's your time. Do you want to be as effective with your time? If so, it's going to take a few things, some preparation steps. Number 1, get your CEO pack in ownership. Now, the CEO pack gives you CEO training, gives you access to extra bonuses like the stock options, like the CEO coding bonuses. It gives you access to the car bonuses, and even 1 month of a car bonus is worth more than the additional cost of buying a CEO pack over just buying the product. So if you're going to do that, then get a hold of that. And you want to be signed up for AutoShip for at least 100 BV, because what that does, or 100 QV, what that does is it actually qualifies you once a month. They'll ship your products out with free shipping, but equally as important, if maybe not more important if you're doing the business, you qualify for the quick start. We actually get 30% when you first introduce somebody to it for their first month of purchases. So I think 30%. So that's great. So that's the first thing. Number 2, order your tools. Business tools, yteamtools.com. There's a business toolkit. There's one for $65. There's another one for $85. The difference is the one for $85 actually has some brochures, some of the business brochures in it that are designed to help you share the CD in a way that it can be not just a health message but a business message. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then there's a 90 for life cards. Those are essentially your business cards that are going to have the 3 steps on how people find out about this. And then you want to training events. This is right now the equivalent of the Business Basics webinar, but check the Business Basics webinar out, because it's never a bad idea to review how to share the CD so that people listen to it. Again, at wallachonline.com under Multimedia, Business Basics by Blake, bottom left-hand side of that Multimedia tab, just scroll down and you'll see it. CEO training, if you can get to it, the next one's in Denver, Colorado on September 14th, 15th, and they're going to do like a party on the 16th, which is a Sunday. I am planning on being there. And then we have convention. When they announce convention, I'd be signed up for convention. And that's the getting started, the basics on getting started. All right. Now, after you get started, we need to look at inviting. So we're going to go back to the inviting slide. And let's talk about mastering effective inviting. Because the most important activity for you and your team is inviting. If you can duplicate inviting, effective inviting, you're going to get some growth. So let's think about it. I want to say, why are we confident in our ability to introduce a good restaurant to our friends and family? And some of the principles are, 1, we think they're going to like the restaurant, and 2, it's a need, right? Eating good food is something they're interested in. It's one of their wants. Well, let's apply this to Youngevity. Ask yourself, what about Youngevity do we think they will like? What will they be interested in? Now, you can guess their interest or you can talk about their interest. You can actually say, hey, I know what they're going to be interested in. But if you can have a conversation about this, you're going to do much better. We call this identifying the need. Now, some people talk about a coffee shop interview or doing a little CSI. I like the phrase CSI because you're doing a little bit of investigative work. You're having a conversation with them where they recognize that they have to share. I don't care how valuable the message is. You might have a diamond-studded football. You might have actually one of these CDs that's made out of, let's say, platinum or gold or something. Right now they're doing the Olympics, so think gold, okay? And you want to give it to somebody, and you're going to throw it to them, right? Even if it's a golden CD, even if it's a football studded with diamonds, if they don't want it, if they don't want to catch it, if they ignore it, they push it away, it will do them no good. What we want to do, this is a message that can change their lives physically and financially. I mean, there's a huge business opportunity because if you think how many people are sick out there and aren't getting answers, you just get a small idea of what this business can be. So with all of this incredible need out there, some people still turn it away because they don't understand it. They don't understand how valuable it is. So what we need to do when we share this is share it in a way that they want it. Share it in a way they will understand how valuable it is once they listen to it. Share it in a way that they're going to play catch, okay? Because if they don't play catch, you can run and run and run and run and chase them, and they're going to run away. And you can wear yourself out and aggravate them in the same process if they're not ready to play catch. But if somebody's ready to play catch, if somebody wants the message you have to share, I tell you, they listen, and they listen so much better. See, that's the whole identifying the need, and it's part of that brochure. If you see that, after we identify the need, we're going to lend the best of dead doctors don't lie to meet their needs. Okay, now why do we lend the CD? Okay, because you could obviously, you've identified the need, you could have a presentation with them right there. You could sit down and talk with them. Why do we lend the CD? Well, number one, it's because it works. It's quicker, it's easier, and it's more effective to bring people to the restaurant than it is to try to become the chef. I know when I first heard this message, I learned it from Dr. Wallach. I wrote down all the notes. I went home and shared it with my mother. Now, some of you have probably shared it with friends or family. Not all of your friends and family are receptive to hearing it from you, I found out. I found out that my mother would take everything I said and go and ask her doctor, and her doctor would poo-poo the nutrition and tell her, you know, she might overdose on it. Like the nutrition is dangerous, right? No way. But despite the fact that I was in pre-med, despite the fact that I had shown my mother my schedule and she knew that there were no nutritional courses in that, she still considered her MD to be the authority, not me. You probably have friends and family that don't consider you a health expert. And they probably have friends and family that don't consider them a health expert. Well, here's the beautiful thing. When you do it right, you don't have to be. The CD will be the expert. And after 2 years, I realized that. It's not me. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how many times I practice. My mother won't listen to me because she doesn't consider me the expert. Well, I happen to know a guy that has more credibility than her doctor did. And this is a guy that's been published 75 times, has a book in the Smithsonian, has beat the FDA 7 times, has been nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine, has actually eliminated entire diseases, and is so famous he has a book now with the Smithsonian, sold over 156 million copies of his CD. Because frankly, his message is powerful. That's Dr. Wallach. You know exactly who I'm talking about. But my mother wasn't going to listen to Dr. Wallach. She wouldn't go to his lecture. You know, I tried everything I could. But one day, she was in my car and I had an idea. My car, my CD player, right? I turned to her, and I didn't do this when we were in the driveway because I knew if I did it in the driveway, she would get out of the car and go back into her house or drive her own car or something. She wouldn't drive with me. She didn't want to hear it. So I waited till we were going down the street, and I thought I had a captive audience. I put the CD in, and I hit play. I said, Mom, I need to listen to this for work. And I hit play, and I thought I had it. I had it. I had figured it out. It took me 2 years to do it, you know, but I had figured it out. And my mother gave me this look. And then she closed her eyes and went to sleep. And I couldn't believe it. How dare she go to sleep? You know, I thought I had her. So I figured, you know, if the best thing I was going to do is get it into her subconscious, by golly, I was going to do that. So I actually turned it up. And for 20 minutes, we drove to my brother's house. Well, at the end of 20 minutes, after her being asleep or pretending to be asleep, she actually opened her eyes when she got out of the car, looked at me and said, okay, Blake, I'll try the products. Here's what I'm saying. 20 minutes with Dr. Wallach on this CD was better than 2 years with me. Why do we use the CD? Because it works. It works, it works, it works. We need to let people get their own answers. And the CDs will do it. And this is the best CD to start with. Now, we do have other CDs, so learn those other CDs. But I love this one as the start one. This CD is going to be the restaurant. But remember, just like with my mother, it's not how many CDs you share. I had given her 10 CDs before that she didn't listen to. They didn't do her any good. A CD they don't listen to is like products they don't take. Won't do them any good. It's how many that they actually listen to, right? So how do we get people to listen to it? And here's how we do it. We tailor our message to what they want. And see, the want is bolded and underlined. It's not what people need. I mean, my mother needed the stuff before. She didn't want to listen to it, though. She didn't want the products. It's not everybody who needs the products gets it. It's those people who really want the products get it. So we need to tailor our message to what people want. And we're going to explain how to do that in a very simple way. If you're taking notes, this is something to take notes of. If you've been on these webinars before, this is something you should be practicing as we go along, because you know the better you get at this, the better you get at teaching this, the better your group gets at using this, the more you're going to be able to share CDs. And here are going to be some real life examples. I learned this from the master, actually the creator of the CD himself, Dr. Joel Wallach. See, Dr. Wallach was on an airplane, and he saw a lady that was in a need. It had a need, right? She had really bad joint pain. You could tell as she was walking, right? He sits next to her on the plane, and he gets in a conversation with her and asks, you know, what she does, finds out she's a horse trainer, right? But in the course of our conversation, two things become very apparent to Doc. Number one, she loves horses. I mean, she loves it so much. She and her husband invested their life savings and bought a horse ranch. She loves riding horses. She loves jumping horses. She loves everything to do with horses. She's in love with her job. It's her dream job, right? Two, her dream job's killing her. I mean, her knees and her neck and her back are deteriorating to the point that every time the horse bounces, in this job that she loves, is shooting pain up and down her spine. And she has the real possibility of falling off the horse and breaking her neck. I mean, it's that serious. This could be the death of her. And she loves it. And she's got to give it up. And she's torn up about it. And it's a big deal to her. And after she goes on for 2.5 hours, Dr. Wallach knows what the need is. As the plane comes in for a landing, you know, doesn't have a whole lot of time left, she turns to Dr. Wallach and finally says, oh, I've spoken this whole time about me. What is it that you do? Okay. Finally gives him the chance to talk. Now, if you are Dr. Wallach, or if you've ever heard Dr. Wallach, I was going to say a million things. That might be an exaggeration, but there's a lot he could say. I mean, he could lecture for 3 hours without a break, almost every day a week. You know, 6 days out of the week, and get up and do it the next week over again. He could go longer if people could go longer. He's got that much to share. But listen to what he said, because this is important. Because it's not about what he says, it's about what she's ready for, okay? So he simply says, believe it or not, I work with a company that specializes in making products to fix the knees, the back, and the necks of horse trainers. And she wasn't sure that she actually heard him right. You know, she couldn't believe her ears. She said, excuse me, could you say that again? And he says, believe it or not, I work with a company that specializes in making products to fix the knees and the back and the necks of horse trainers. And she started to say, well, what is it? How much does it cost? Where do I get it? And he would say, well, I don't have any information on me right now. And when he said that, she reached up and grabbed him by the collar and pulled him up into her face and said, I want the stuff. She wanted it. She was ready for it. Let me ask you this. Do you think she listened to a CD? Absolutely. And used the products and get on auto ship. They got off the plane, got on the phone, called up the company, got her order placed, got her on auto ship. She was excited. She was ready. And she went back and told all of her friends how she met this guy that works with a company that specializes in making products to fix the knees and the back and the necks of horse trainers. Well, I had heard Dr. Wallach say this, and I'll share another story with you that actually isn't up here right now, but this is another one. When Dr. Wallach was in Japan, a friend of mine, Mark Nichols, was doing the translation. Dr. Wallach was telling this story. And Mark is one of those that he's a great guy, but he is a little shy about talking to people that he doesn't know, just starting up a conversation. But he was on the train going back home, and there was a lady sitting next to him on the train. They got into a conversation. Well, where are you going? Well, she was going to Kyoto, Japan, because her sister had just died from cancer, and she was going to the funeral. And then when she asked Mark what he did, Mark remembered. He had just done the translation for this, and it was grilled into him. So he said, well, believe it or not, I actually work with a doctor that specializes in preventing and reversing cancer. She was amazed. You do? Yeah. And he's like, yeah. In fact, Dr. Wallach's even changed health regulations on cancer in the United States. Well, this lady was excited. She thought, this might be fate. Here she is, had a sister just die from cancer, and she met somebody that might be able to help other people go through the same fate. And she actually was one of those that understood business, understood what it was to be an entrepreneur, found out about the business, got involved with the business because he remembered this one line. Okay, it's that good. I was on an elevator, and I saw a gentleman. This was here in Japan. He didn't look Japanese. I started a conversation. How you doing? What are you doing in here today? And he says, well, I'm here teaching English, but... And this is one where I was very surprised because I didn't ask him anything about health. But he says, this is my diabetes is so bad, I'm going to have to move back to England. In fact, my blood sugar's up over 500. We're worried I'm going to have a stroke. My wife's crying herself to sleep every night. And then he asked me what I did. What do you think I said? I said exactly what I'd heard Dr. Wallach said. Believe it or not, I work with a company that specializes in preventing and reversing diabetes. It's like, you do? Yeah, it's what we do. There's nobody in the world that does this like Dr. Wallach does. Let me ask you, do you think he was ready to play catch? Was he ready for any information? Yeah, he wanted information and product, and he didn't care if the only product I had was already open and I had drank half the bottle. He wanted it because this could be the answer to his prayers. In fact, he went back to his English class and told them that day he had gotten an answer to his prayers. He'd been praying and praying and praying for something to help and never found it until he ran into me on that elevator. Now, I can't tell you that I was the one that gave him the answer. I think I was probably the vehicle maybe, but I actually think that it's the good Lord because I didn't know he had diabetes until he said it. But he was inspired to say that to me. He was inspired. And if you've ever been inspired to reach out to someone right when they need it, you know what I mean. If you've ever been in a time of need and somebody reached out to you right at the perfect moment, you know what I mean. People are out there praying for answers. And I believe in God, and I believe that he hears and answers prayers. With my whole heart, I do. But I know that he does it often through us. And so if you feel the inspiration to reach out to somebody, do it. I had a gentleman, we'd done this training, and he was coming out of a Costco in St. George, Utah. And he saw a gentleman in a wheelchair. And he felt inspired to talk to this gentleman. So he went up to him and said, what are you doing in the wheelchair? And, I don't know that I have ever personally used that approach, but he did. He felt inspired to talk to this guy. What are you doing in the wheelchair? He says, well, I was a truck driver, and I was out of my truck working on it when, sticking kind of half out underneath the tires, and another truck pulled along beside me to park and ran me over. And since then, I've been in a wheelchair. And he says, really? Well, believe it or not, I work with a company that specializes in helping old beat-up truck drivers get out of their wheelchairs. He says, you do? And he's like, yeah. And he shared with them his own story about his daughter who had had a horrible car accident. Within 35 days, that gentleman in the wheelchair and his brother were both senior executive marketing directors in the company because he listened to inspiration. Folks, people out there need this, and I hope you listen to it. And I hope you share it with people. And I hope when you feel that little bit of inspiration that you're not scared. I do know of another story of somebody that felt inspired to talk to a person but felt intimidated and put it off, put it off, put it off, and kept praying, dear Lord, inspire me to talk to with who I should talk to. And felt kind of like almost, I wouldn't say a voice, but a feeling like, don't say it if you're not going to do it. Knew exactly what it was. Finally called up that person, and they had just come back from the funeral from their son, who died from cancer. And they had a feeling that somebody was going to bring them something. They weren't going to do the chemotherapy, and that somebody was supposed to bring them something, and that person never showed up. Well, folks, that's you and I. There are people out there that if we don't talk to them, somebody else is going to. But there are more people out there, if we don't talk to them, no one else is going to. They need this stuff, and we need to share it with them. All right. So now the next one is, this is for the people who maybe are working with a close friend or family. I know I've got the Independent Marketing Director of the Year, Nephi Wayman. He's a plumber. He says, my friends know me as a plumber. I can't tell them I'm working with a doctor. He says, since when is a plumber working with a doctor? So he says, believe it or not, I have a friend that works with a company or doctor that specializes in helping people exactly like you with the exact thing we're looking for. And once you've done that, you pause. And if they say something, they show some interest, that's when you share it with them. But if they don't show any interest, you don't have to share it with them. You've just planted the seed. Okay? If you chase them, they're going to run. Don't chase them. You planted the seed. They start asking questions. Say, hey, I have a CD that I'd like to lend you. And remember, we can guess people's interests. You can talk about their interest. Or there is one other option. You can self-select. See, the CD can be both a business tool and a health tool. And we have this called the CD mailer. This is there's one of the getting started tool packages that actually has 20 of these in it. And this tool can help you use it for both business and health. Inside are 5 testimonials, including one from Irvin that I just shared with you. He didn't share his story in there about how he talked to the gentleman in the wheelchair, but he did share with you his story with macular degeneration. But when you talk to somebody, you can give them this CD in this case, and it'll help to present it as a tool that can change their life, physically or financially, or both. And that's what the stories in there do. And so this is something else that you can use as a tool there. That's what we do, folks. We share this. Now, what do we do after that? Let me give you one of the ways the people do it when they're dropping this off. If it's somebody you know and you don't know what their need is, you haven't had that conversation. If you have, that's a better conversation. But if you haven't, you just say, I've got something that you really need to hear, but I can only leave it with you for 2 days. And you always set a time to pick it back up, okay? If I lend you the CD, will you listen to it? Now, you get that. Get a commitment and set a time to pick it back up. Now, if you don't know the person, get the contact information from them. Set a time to get back with them. The important thing is they listen to it. Why do we get it back? Because if you ask for it back, the chances of them actually listen to it go way up with your friends and family. If it's somebody you met for the first time, you're on an airplane, they're going somewhere else, well, maybe it's harder for them to get it back to you, but the key is whether or not they listen to it. So setting a time to follow up with them is still a great way to get them to listen to it. Okay, and ask them what. So what do you say now? Afterwards, you go to pick it up. Okay, you passed it off. You're going to pick it up. What do you say? Well, I like to say one of the things is, what did you like about it? You can say, what did you think? And that's a neutral question, good or bad. What did you like means good. So you're looking for somebody that actually listened to it. I had one person that I had handed out to a friend, and they said, what do you think? They'd say, yeah, okay. When they said, what'd you like? The person was kind of stumped because they were trying to think or guess at what was on the CD because they actually hadn't listened to it. They give you kind of a mediocre answer when they haven't listened to it. But she said, something about health, but she knew after that she really needed to listen to it. And when she listened to it, it changed her life and she got in the business. So after they've listened to it, they know something that they like in there. They have a question. Sounds like you're ready for the next step. And most of the time when you say that, people say, well, what's the next step? The next step is a live presentation. It's the restaurant. It's the system, right? It's come meet the team. Let me introduce to somebody else that'll help you share this with it. That's what we're talking about. And that is what we do. And so the different ways that we can do this, I'm going to go back to the other presentation. Hold on just a minute. Oh, let me also mention this. If you need a conversation, a starter, somebody you don't know, you just can say, hey, do you know anybody who uses prescriptions? And they say, no. Well, why do you ask? Or, yeah, I do. Then you say, hey, the reason I ask is I've got this 90 for life savings card, and it can help them save money. But what we really do is try to help. Okay. So now we've lent the CD, we've gone and picked it back up. After that, we're going to invite them to learn more on what makes us unique. And that is what we call the live presentation, meet the team. And we're going to do it the same way. It's quicker, easier, and more effective to bring people to the restaurant than it is to try to become the chef. So we're going to bring them to a presentation. And here's the thing. If you don't show them what the business is and ask them to do the business, most people are going to judge the business based on something else they've already seen, not based on this. And they're going to base their decision on that something else. I actually had a friend, Dan. Dan has a huge organization in Youngevity. He's one of the vice chairmen. But did you know that he turned me down 3 times before he got involved? Why? Because he based this on something else. I called him up and said, Dr. Wallach is starting his own company. He said, not interested. I was trying to figure out how I could get better. What did I say wrong? I couldn't remember what I said wrong because I didn't say hardly anything. I called him back up and says, Dan, you know how you told me no? He's like, yeah, I told you no. I said, Dan, can I ask why? And he said, sure. Because I did company, and it was the name of another company that even used Dr. Wallach's audio cassettes. And so he thought he knew all about it. And I realized after 4 days, I tossed and turned a little bit. It didn't sit well with me. You ever have something just kind of bothers you? It was like that for 4 days. And I finally showed up at his work, and he's like, Blake, what are you coming to my work for? I already told you no. I said, Dan, I'll take no for an answer, but I only ask one thing. I said, first, Dan, let me explain to you. I'm not asking to buy something. I'd love to work with you, but I want you to be just as excited as I am. So all I ask is this. It says, Dan, I'll take no for an answer, but I ask that you tell me no after you take a look. Tell me no after you take a look. Well, guess what? He took a look and he said yes. And now he has one of the biggest organizations in all of Youngevity. He's got a great group, and it's growing. And I'm glad he got involved. He's glad he got involved. His wife's glad he got involved. His kids weren't even around there. And if you read in there, having Dr. Wallach's products is probably one of the things that helped them have children. They're glad they got involved because, Dad has a different lifestyle than most parents do because of this business. Dad can be at the sport events and be at the games and do other things with the family that he couldn't have done had he been working a regular job. They've had experience that they couldn't have had. So because he looked at this before he made a decision, he made an educated decision. And that's all we say. Look, I'll take no for an answer. All I ask is you take a look at it first and then tell me no. And when people do, so many people get involved. Now, remember, it's the same concept. Someone else is going to be the chef. We're going to bring them to the restaurant. Someone else is going to show them what makes Youngevity unique. Someone else is going to show them the business. And we do a webinar on the products, another one on the business. You can do in-home meetings. You can meet with them in your upline. You can watch the DVD, What Makes Youngevity Unique, or the business presentation from Steve Schultz. You can take them to one of the events with Dr. Wallach or Dr. Glidden or Steve Schultz. We have lots of ways to bring them to a presentation. Let the presentation do the work. And then after that, it's continuing education. The tools and the events will educate people, not just you, but your people. See, when you're in an event or on a conference call, you're learning, you're not earning. When your people are at an event or on a conference call, they're learning and you're earning. Okay, let me say that again. When you're at it by yourself, you're learning, you're not earning. When you're at it with people on your team, you're learning and earning. Okay, because when your team duplicates, when they take action, that's when results happen. And the business is about results, about helping people with their health and with their finances. And we need people to get results. And that's all about mastering that invite process. So you continue your education, Wallach online, yteamtools.com, Docs Radio Show. There's a lot of places to go from. Okay, and that's the presentation, folks. We want to thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for all you do to help share this message and change people's lives, because that's what it's about. We're on a crusade, and people out there need us, and we're looking for people like you to help. In closing, I'm going to just share with you one little thing called our 60-Day to Company Card Challenge. And this is a simple program. That's the purpose is to get people taking more action, because results always come from action, never from good intention. It comes from action. So if we can get people taking more action in 60 days, we can get more people healthy, get more people into new cars. And so for the next 60 days to qualify for the car bonus, we want to get 20 CDs listened to a week and then plug them into the system. That's what we do. Now, if you're going to do it slower, you're only going to do 10 a week. It might take you 90 days, okay? But it's the same thing. There's actually a brochure, 60 Days Company Car, that goes over this. And if you go to 60daytocompanycar.com, 60daystocompanycar.com, you'll actually see there this tracker. And on this tracker, it'll have the steps that we just went through. Sharing the CD, picking it back up. Make sure you get your website on those personalized CDs, so that if they go to the internet to sign up, they're not going to somebody else's site, they're going to yours. And pick it back up, follow up, and then when they want to get started, there's the first steps, the checklist on how to help them get started to do the same thing. That's what we do, folks. We want to thank everybody for being on tonight. We want to thank you for all you do to help change the world and share Dr. Wallach's message. If there's any quick questions, I'll stay around for a few minutes to answer questions. For everyone else, I want to just say good night, and everyone continue to share the message, and let's make a bigger difference in the world. For anybody who wants my email address, it's japanblake@hotmail.com. japanblake@hotmail.com. And you can call and ask me questions. Understand, I get lots of emails, and when I travel, I don't always get to them right away. And if it's been more than 2 or 3 days, feel free to email me again. It probably means that it got lost with kind of with all the other emails. And even if I intended to answer it, when it gets in the 3rd or 4th page, I don't always see those. And so if that's the case, just email me again. I don't think anybody's being pushy. Just email me again, and we'll do what we can to follow up. We do answer lots of questions on these Thursday webinars, and so we appreciate everybody being here. All right, any other questions? John, if there's no meetings, the one I like is actually what makes us unique. Or if it's a business, there's a business DVD. You can download it from the 94lifevideos.com, and I'll type that in, www.94lifevideos.com, that you can download it there. Or the What Makes Us Unique is available at www.yteamtools.com. And the company will take some of those videos from the 94lifevideos.com and actually make them available on a DVD coming up soon. You can purchase from the company. Okay, so hopefully that helps answer your questions. And yeah, you can show CDs at home meetings. If you don't have a home meeting in your area, a lot of people will do it on a Thursday night where they'll plug into the webinar for part of the meeting and then just answer questions afterwards. Javier, I actually get in the Los Angeles area. I fly in through there on a pretty regular basis. I don't have any meetings scheduled in that area, but it's not to say that I couldn't do it at some time. So if you've got people that you're getting together, talk with your upline, see what they can do. And there are times that, yeah, I would be available to maybe do something in Los Angeles. But, one thing I can say, we're in Los Angeles every Thursday night. And so if you have meetings you want to do something in Denver every Thursday night, Florida every Thursday night, if you're in Japan or Korea, that's Friday morning there. But all over the world, if they plug into these webinars. But if not, again, use the videos, and when you start to get people together, when the bigger the group is, the more valuable is the travel for the upline that are doing it. Yeah, you're welcome. De nada. Or as they say in Japanese, do itashimashite. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for tonight then. Everyone have a great night. Remember, it's all about what we do to make a difference in people's lives. No CDs will work until they listen to them. Sometimes you have to be a little creative, like with my family. But when they listen to it, it can change people's lives. So everything you can do to get more people listening to the CDs. That's great. Let's get more tools out there. All right, everyone. Have a good night.